Hello, my name's Oluwatimi Osha. I like to talk about American presidents, and at the same time, I talk about lessons from history, and I also draw attention to what I'm experiencing. That's uh, rights deprivation under color of law violations, 18 USC section 241 and 242 and 42 USC section 1983. That's malicious prosecution, which I've been suffering in Montgomery County, Maryland, since 2023, May 2023, when I was assaulted in my home. I was falsely imprisoned. Then I was, you know, and then I was eventually assaulted based on false accusations by Montgomery County Police and other government actors without an arrest warrant or a search warrant, but they used their pretext was there was an emergency evaluation petition that I was never given notice of. And since it's been learned that emergency evaluation petition was filed by a Jide Iwarere who's been impersonating himself as my uncle, and my mother has gone to court, and my family, and they have sworn affidavits, and there's a case in Nigeria saying Jide Iwarere is not my uncle. He fabricated everything in the emergency evaluation petition. They're filled with malicious lies, and you know, and they're wicked. And of course, that he'd made false representations to them. That when my family eventually found out from my friend that I'd been locked up in jail, he never told them that it was him. He filed an emergency evaluation petition and made false claims to the police that sent them to my home. Um, what he told them was that I was doing drugs and the police arrested me for drugs. Of course, my family knew that was a lie because I don't do drugs, right? I do not do drugs. I've never done drugs. So, in any event, the police who assaulted me then filed false charges against me, saying I assaulted them in my home. The police had no arrest warrants. So, fine, let's go to trial. There's a malicious case of malicious prosecution because the police, sorry, apart from the police filing, a fabricated charge statement that the body cam shows is fabricated, the inconsistencies because there are three different statements from the police about what happened, right? And mainly they state that they came because of this fabricated EAP when a very significant material document has been passed through the court and it turns out to be false. It turns out to be false, and it can affect the outcome of the case. It's called fraud on the court. It's misleading. It's a deliberate misrepresentation. It's fraud on the court. The case should be actually vacated. So we were in court yesterday on February the 2nd, 2026. The trial was set for February the 9th, 2026. There have been motions, so I've been using a public defender. It's almost 3 years now. And it turns out that, and I've done other videos stating what really happened. What I've done videos narrating the facts of, the facts and the events and circumstances. So I'm not going to get into that in detail. So I'm just going to narrate what happened in court yesterday because it was supposed to be a week to trial. So I have a public defender. I'm using a public defender. It's been almost 3 years because the Sixth Amendment guarantees an indigent person charged with a crime a right to counsel paid for by the state. That's my Fifth Amendment right. Now, it turns out that this person who's been represented, because various people have come from the office of the public defender over the past 3 years and they've been making these false representations. I've done videos and I've talked about the false representations from the private attorney that was hired by Jide Wire, the man who filed the false emergency evaluation petition that was perjured, and that's uh, private attorney, Steve Mercer, was making false representations to the court. That's fraud on the court, right? Because, and so I went to the NAACP. NAACP's general counsel, advised me to fire Steve Mercer, saying he is a nominal attorney. So that was the situation. And so I was using a public defender, but the public defenders, they got co-opted by the state attorney to do these false incompetency to stand trial, to execute these false incompetency to stand trial orders by Judge James Bonifant. He's the circuit court of Montgomery County, and he's been superintending this perversion of justice, because fraud on the court is a perversion of justice. There's been fraud on the court. I've been denied my opportunity to speak my version. And when I've told my narrative of what happened, right, the judge has instead tried to discredit me. He said, well, that's not what happened, because the police obviously fabricated their statements. It doesn't matter that the police's statement of what happened is very different from what the body cam shows happened, right? And even Steve Mercer, the first private attorney, pointed this out to the court, right, in July of 2023, that there's significant distortions from the police's charge statement and what the body cam displays. That's a euphemism for the police lied, right? Despite that, Judge Bonifant has ignored the facts. Instead, he's been saying these things that are not factual. He's saying, well, that imagining things that I said, which are outside racist, right? They're outright racist, right? He's been outright racist and xenophobic, just telling lies in the court in order to coerce me to go and do an evaluation, a competency to stand trial evaluation. Now, again, competency to stand trial, you can't just order it arbitrarily, right? Somebody who's a criminal defendant, the purpose is to make sure that they're having a fair trial, which is protected by the Sixth Amendment. Let me recite the Sixth Amendment again. It includes, the right of the accused to know their charges, what they're charged with. It's their right to have a fair, speedy, and public trial by a jury of their peers. It's a right to cross-examine the accusers, right? So the Sixth Amendment packs a lot of significant elements, right? And so it's in the interest of fairness that the state, says, well, they're trying to pursue justice, so they want to make sure the accused understands their charges, understands courtroom proceedings, can work with their attorney so that they can contribute to their defense. Now, the judge has done two fraudulent competency to stand, executed two incompetency to stand trial orders against me. Okay, that's happened. I get an opportunity to file a lawsuit against the state or him later on, right? Because we're going to prove that, I didn't meet the standard to have a competency evaluation for Judge Bonifant to find me incompetent. They sort of have a racket. Him and a state psychologist, Dr. Julie Smith. I've done a video explaining the fraudulent thing she did, and my family recorded it because my mom insisted that she has to be present. So via Zoom, she was present in all these evaluations, and so they asked them questions, and they recorded what they said, and then those people go and they doctor their information and they lie, because the state Judge Bonifant was asking me to volunteer to go and do an evaluation. I'm not going to volunteer to do an evaluation because I'm not sick. I'm not going to see a psychiatrist. I don't believe in seeing a psychiatrist. That's and that's protected in my First Amendment rights, my religion. I don't believe in psychiatry. It's bunk. But the thing is, we've gotten that out of the way, right? And I've been found competent twice, not by state psychiatrists that they had, and not just been found competent. Those state psychiatrists maintain that I have no mental illness, right? That I should not be in a psychiatric hospital. In fact, they apologized to me, right, that I was brought there. They stated that I'm not supposed to be there. Now, despite this, and it's been 3 years, right? After the last time I was found competent was June 2025, right? And I was released. I'm out on bond. Like, there's no restriction. No, yeah, I'm even free to travel. No restriction anymore. Before, he had placed me on GPS for a long time because he told him this guy is not dangerous. I've never been dangerous, right? Because the police, the state filed fabrications, right? So, waiting for trial. Now, my attorney has failed to file motions, right? They're motions because there's a period for motions where you can file a motion to dismiss, motion for something, and uh, there are things you can file a motion. There are grounds you can file a motion to dismiss on. For instance, malicious prosecution. My attorney has indicated to me that this is a malicious prosecution. She's aware of that. She's failed to file. She failed to file said things like discovery. Uh, she failed to indicate that there was a defect with discovery, right? That we didn't have everything we requested for, right? Immediately I asked for, it's been 3 years, I immediately asked them to get the CCTV. The CCTV is around my building and it will demonstrate and prove if what happened, right? If what the police said happened is really what happened, right? And then I asked for all the body cam from a certain period because the CCTV from a certain period will show us who was in the building, right? From a certain period. They have failed to provide all of this information. How do I show? Because, when I go to trial, I'm supposed to, I'm not just going to give testimony. Oral testimony is part of evidence in trial, but what will, what will convince the jury is if you have concrete, tangible evidence like CCTV, video camera footage, and things like that. And I have these things, not just testimony, because people lie, people commit perjury. The police officers commit perjury on 3 different instances at court. That's why the state has been going along with them. So, something else, the just 2 minutes, sorry, just 2 weeks, barely 2 weeks to trial. My public defender, who failed to file any motions to dismiss, has not filed any subpoenas, despite the fact that I given her a list and everything, done nothing. She had indicated to me that this was small, that look, she's going to file a motion to suppress, so they're going to dismiss everything. Oh, they had no arrest warrants, they had nothing, they didn't give me notice, blah, blah. She made it seem like, man, she's got this under control. And 2 weeks to trial, then she now starts to switch strategy on me. And what was strategy, what we were supposed to do, the district public defender had made it clear, previous attorneys had made it clear that, look, one, we haven't still seen evidence of these assaults that they claimed, right? And it didn't happen, that's one. Second, because they had no arrest warrant. Third, the pretext that supposedly brought them to my home, where I lived alone, I was not committing any crime. I'm a law abiding American citizen. It's a fabrication, and they said they were going to challenge it. So, all of these things, challenging the emergency evaluation petition, the fabrication by GDY, which my mother's court order from Nigeria proves. GDY is not even my uncle. The man went to fabricate all sorts of stuff, and he himself has even recanted these things and their recordings. She now asked me just 2 weeks before that she wants to suppress that evidence since it's fabricated. Because it's fabricated, it's the reason why I should file fraud on the courts. Then another thing, she now said that, okay, she wanted to remove the entrapment defense because, well, entrapment defense doesn't mean that I'm admitting to committing any crime. The alleged crime, because the evidence we're going to demonstrate that, well, I haven't committed any crime, right? Because they don't meet the statutory requirements and they have no arrest warrant. It's an illegal search, illegal conduct, right? She was now telling me that, well, that the venue, right, Montgomery County, the community, which would be what would constitute the jury pool, right? The jury is going to be picked from the community. That they tend to have a favorable opinion of the police, and they would be offended, would not like, you know, would not be amenable to any defense that's putting the police in bad light, or is demonstrating their misconduct, which is fact. So they're not amenable to facts, right? So that's bias. So she told me that the jury pool is likely to be biased. So immediately I told her, okay, then ask for a change of venue. That's my constitutional right. That's the Sixth Amendment. They've been doing these false incompetency, these false arbitrary competency evaluations, claiming it's for fairness to protect my rights. But now they're telling me that, well, there might be that the jury might not be favorable. Okay, then there's a way to fix that in the law, right? And you ask for a change of venue. She didn't want to do that. So many things. So then she now told me that, okay, she's requesting that we meet with have a status air hearing to bring this to the attention of the judge, right? And the state attorney's office. So we had a one yesterday. By the way, she's been my attorney for 7 months because they've been switching themselves out in the public defender's office. This is past 3 years now. What she was spending her time to do, which they've all been trying to do, was to coerce me to accept a plea bargain. And I'm learning, by the way, the public defender's office is actually paid. It's paid by the states. It's under the attorney general's office. I'm learning how they are actually co-opted, and many times they don't provide effective counsel. I was stunned because I thought, well, this person graduated from Georgetown Law School. She's worked in big law before. But you see, all these names, I'm starting to see, they don't really matter, right? They don't, it depends on the person. So, in fact, she's been trying to act bizarrely like she's the attorney for the state, for the police. Because she was now trying to pressure me not to show the police misconduct, which she knows occurred, and we shouldn't show it, even though she knows it occurred. She was not asking me that we should suppress that evidence, and we should suppress the fabricated emergency evaluation petition by Jide Iwari, that we have incontrovertible evidence is a fabrication. All the things, that's prosecutorial misconduct. They're using fabricated evidence. That's what they're using. So the state should never have filed the charges in the first place. I said no. So we got there yesterday. And so the Judge Bonifant, I'd hope that would be the last time I would see him, that I wouldn't have to see him again. Because he himself, I'd filed complaints against him for judicial misconduct, because he's been doing things, he's been outright lying, he's been committing fraud on the court himself, right? He's been perverting justice. He's violated my constitutional rights, right? Violated my equal protection and due process of law. In any event, and he's violated my rights to a fair trial. It's been 3 years. The public defender also stated that, look, because it's been so long, some evidence has been lost, like the CCTV footage she's assuming that they probably write over it. She hasn't done an investigation to check. I worked at a bank and we piled up CCTV, right? And we went to put it in storage. We don't write over it because for evidence. And a building like mine, which is commercial, just in case something goes on, she doesn't know what their policy is. She hasn't investigated this. She's just assuming. She's had plenty of time, 7 months. She didn't do anything. The state has had 3 years, the public defender's office, almost 3 years to do this investigation. It was one of the first things. When the public defender comes on, you think they're so sharp. They immediately tell you all these nice things they're going to do. The public defender before her, that was what she told me. Said, "Oh, she has an investigator on their team. That person's going to investigate, going to interview people. She's going to send out subpoenas. She's going to, get the CCTV and all that. She's going to get all the body cam evidence from the two dates, because it's May 14. I've done videos explaining what happened on May 14, 2023, how I was assaulted. And those people went to go and fabricate their statement. Because of all these fabrications, that's why she should have gone to the judge and, look, these are fabricated. This is malicious prosecution. Dismiss the case. She didn't do that. Then 1 week before trial, the trial is supposed to be on the 9th, February the 9th, 2023. So she is there with me. And then something else that I presented to her, I said, look, because I have friends, cousins who are attorneys. I've been talking to them, right? I have a cousin who graduated from Georgetown. People, and I run things by them. Of course, I graduated from law school myself. So I have people who can give me advice I go to. My cousin told me that, look, you should be asked to be co-counsel, because it's my life that's on the line, right? So things I'm entitled to. I'm the one who bear the consequences in case there's a conviction. Already, my reputation has been damaged, and these are things that I have to be able to fight for, right? So I'd made this known to them for a long time. Every time when somebody comes on, immediately I say, okay, I want to be co-counsel. I told her, she didn't say anything about it. Then 1 week before trial, when she's now telling me that she had no strategy, none at all, just one thing. They've been piling up charges, several other things. She's just been talking about one charge, one form of charge. She hasn't obtained bill of particulars. She's assuming the sort of defense, the sort of second degree assault they're talking about, right? Without requesting the actual bill of particulars. And then she now tells me, oh, no, this is the strategy she wants. I don't mind her being, at that time, I didn't mind her representing me if she follows my strategy. But now she's saying that she doesn't want to follow the strategy that I took time. Because you know what? I've been prevented from working for almost 3 years. I've spent my time researching the case, researching all of these things in criminal law, right? And it is astonishing that I actually did excellently at Bocconi University. I did excellently in criminal law. I was top of the class in criminal law, right? At Bocconi University, and so I thought, okay, you know what? Let me use my time to research that very court that I'm being charged in. Ironically, I was a judicial intern to a judge in that court in 2019, in spring of 2019, to Honorable John Maloney. Right? When the false charges came up, when I came up, because he was very kind to me, immediately he was one of the first people I reached out to. And he told me what to do. Go and get a lawyer there. He's so sorry I'm experiencing this, So it's ironic that I'm seeing, that was a judge I respected, but this other judge, Judge Bonifant, oh my God, I've never seen someone so corrupt, so crooked. So in court yesterday, I had anticipated that, okay, these guys, they've been doing all these competency evaluations. It's a bad faith prosecution. They have no evidence. Even my public defender said, look, they have no evidence to convict till today, right? But I'm not going to live, I leave no stone unturned. And that's my strategy. So we got there yesterday, and this judge and the state attorney who just came on, after 2 evaluations, I had anticipated that what if these guys do this talk of competency evaluation again? I'd already planned, my family had already planned ahead. I said, okay, that's, but my family is now concerned in Nigeria that they might be trying to kill me because of the level of fraud. This thing, it would have damaged another regular, judge's career, or another attorney, or the police. What they're doing is corruption outright. They should be prosecuted and being jailed with disbarred, right, for what has gone on. So my family is now concerned that these people might be trying to eliminate me, to kill me, especially if the last time, both times that they've incarcerated me or locked me up or sent me to a mental health facility for these false competency, uh, uh, false incompetency orders, I've been threatened, I've been assaulted, and so my mom's very concerned, especially in jail. People have been dying, bizarre overdose, suicide. Those correctional officers are crooked, many of them. I met females who were raped at the hospital. I was in a co-head because I never, there was a female, I used the opportunity to start doing investigative journalism. Why are you here? There was a model who was in the hospital with me. In fact, she went viral because of something that happened. And so she told me her story a lot. And then I found out, now she found out a lot about her and her experience. Unfortunately, when she was in jail, and she was raped by a correctional officer. And obviously, they'll discredit her. She was correctional officers when they came to be locked while she was asleep, came and they raped her. This is her statement, according to her. So there's so much corruption that goes on. You know, they may be involved in people getting killed. You never know. These are very corrupt, crooked people. And my family in Nigeria is now concerned. They've gone to the embassy, even Honorable Abike Dabri, who's chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Committee. Many people, they know there's a United Nations investigator that knows, that's reached out to me, many different bodies. But Montgomery County is deep, at least Judge James Bonifant, and because he was circuit administrative judge, uh, at least he's retiring in March. He's deeply corrupt and entrenched in that system. So yesterday he starts to talk about competency again, and he was thinking, him and the state attorney, they're talking about, oh, that, well, they should do another competency evaluation. Can you imagine trying to harass and intimidate me? See, these competency evaluations, they have the effect of witness tampering, right? Witness tampering, obstruction of justice, harassment, and intimidation. They violate the dignity and autonomy of the defendant because they're just accused. They're still innocent until proven guilty. One of the things that the psychiatrists, when I first went to one, that they tried to do was to coerce me to accept the false statement by the police that they were going to, that if I didn't accept it, that they were going to say I have paranoid delusions. They wanted me to accept the false statement of the police. I said, no, I'm not going to. But eventually they apologized and they admitted, no, I'm not delusional. They said, I have no mental illness, nothing. Because I called the FBI while I was there. I told the FBI what happened. The FBI told me, look, they can't touch you, right? If you feel threatened, call the police right now. I called the police. The police came, had me write a statement. I told them that nobody did anything to me there. I mean, the doctors were also cool. The doctors at this place were very cool. They were very good. They were the first ones who told me, hey, you were swatted. They came, had a meeting with me, and apologized. They said, you don't belong here. We're sorry, but we see you're a strong person. You'll get over this. It's good that you're a writer. They went to research. They were very interested because they said the police, the court, Judge Bonifant lied to them, fabricated things. The police fabricated stuff. They had all these lies, and there's a hospital that they had taken me to when they shot me, and were treating me for the high blood pressure, and I refused to speak with the psychiatrist. They had fabricated things, and Judge Bonifant is on the board of that hospital, so he has a fiduciary duty here, or he has a financial interest or fiduciary interest in there. So he had a conflict of interest, so he should not have been involved with the case, right? So that's a conflict of interest. That's a part of judicial misconduct, right? And then these people now try and give me a bill when I refuse to pay the bill. They now get the money from the state. So they're committing fraud because the state is meant to pay only people for people who have a mental illness in a mental hospital. So they've been committing fraud, right? And that's what Judge Bonifant has been involved with, right? Because he gets some kind of interest from it. And they have a racket going on. So it's ironic that how much, if I have a law degree from George, at least my law degree, I graduated from somewhere better than where Judge Bonifant graduated from, right? If I have a law degree, I have all this experience, advanced experience. I've been a financial advisor, leading banks. I've done all this, whatever. I've been a financial analyst. I worked at a high level, right? I hold a top secret clearance that says I'm a man of upstanding character, all of these things. What about those high school dropouts, those indigents that have a right uh, to the presumption of innocence, innocent until proven guilty? How would they abuse those kids' rights? So I was talking, and then this guy, there's the assistant state attorney, like they've been switching themselves out. This one's now John Lalo. So because he failed to coerce me through the public defender I had, who asked me that, well, if I go back to Nigeria and don't come back, they'll dismiss the charges, the trumped up charges. How can you tell me that? That's a constitutional rights violation. First of all, I am an American citizen. You can't ask me. I'm asking for my day in court to prove that no, I've been wrongfully accused. I was a victim of crime in my house, police misconduct. Those police officers, they removed me naked from my home, shot me, tasered me, almost killed me. They admitted, one of them said in an administrative hearing that his intent was to kill me with his Glock. So it was an assassination attempt. I survived. And I'm not going to get justice. They're asking me to run away like as if I'm guilty. No, 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 no. I'm not going to take any plea bargain. I want my day in court, a public trial, right? And I'm entitled to effective counsel. So Judge Bonifant makes specious statements in court. He now quoted a case for me, gave me the name Dykes versus State of Maryland. It was in 2015. I've gone to read the case. I'll do another video discussing the case. Right? It's my Sixth Amendment right to counsel, right? If I'm charged with a crime. And he said, well, it's not guaranteed. Yes, I agree that I have no right to pick counsel. That's not what I've asked for. But that case he asked me to go and read because I wasn't even sure if the law says I'm entitled to effective counsel. I know any attorney who represents you is not meant to be negligent. They're not meant to sabotage your case. They're not meant to demonstrate a lack of representation or be ineffective. They're supposed to communicate with you appropriately, file motions appropriately, listen to you, and things like that to show that a good faith attempt. This person has shown none of those things, so she's not effective. Apparently, that case let me realize that yes, I'm entitled to effective counsel. That's what the state guarantees, effective counsel, and that's what I've asked for. And I'm getting a counsel that's ineffective, and so he's saying that he will view it as that I'm waiving my right because I said I don't want to have, and then he corners you, boxes you into these yes or no questions. I said I don't want this person, but I'm not saying I'm waiving my right to counsel. I haven't waived it. I said no, I'm entitled to counsel. And then he's telling me, well, since I don't want to have that counsel, I should go and hire a private attorney, or I'm going to have to go pro se, represent myself. And I said, look here, the thing is, the states, the courts has in what's called inherent authority to appoint counsel for an indigent defendant. If the office of the public defender says, okay, they're not going to represent him right anymore, because the public defender's office was now saying, well, that they're not going to let me pick and choose. I'm just saying this person is, ineffective counsel. What she's wanting to do or not, what she has failed to do is going to sabotage my case and get a conviction. It's like the state has just been focused. It's been a malicious, bad faith prosecution. It's like the objective was to give me some kind of bad record. Again, it is a matter of obstruction of justice. I've done videos on this, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm focused on the state. So this case that he asked me to go and read, It's consistent with what I'm saying. Even reinforces more. It says if the office of public defender fails to uh, does not want to represent me, the court has inherent authority to actually appoint counsel paid for by the state to represent me. Anyway, let me stop this video here. And so it's kind of funny that what's been happening. And so this dude, the assistant state attorney, is just raising competency, and then he starts to gaslight. They start to tell lies, misrepresent what happens. The people who hate lawyers, I'm starting to see many of them. Wow, they're like straight out of hell. They're like, no wonder people hate lawyers. People don't have a high opinion of lawyers. And for me, that I wanted to be a lawyer, the reason I wanted to go to law school, I believed in justice, right? Equity, rule of law. But these people, like Judge Bonifant, they're morally bankrupt. And he's a judge. He made it all the way to the top. And there's this John Lados, and they tell lies without compunction, like committing public corruption, like a racket. Montgomery County, and then they're racist. How is it that somebody? What does it take? Somebody who have more degrees than any one of them, and not to brag, but how many degrees does one need to show that you understand the charges against you? What are the charges? They filed three different charges against me, three different cases, right? It's been moving. First moved from the district court. I'll give you, the legislative, the history, right? The judicial history went from the case history went from the district court filed May 16, 2023. The case number for that one was D06 CR23 002968. They filed false charges, all dismissed. All of them were fabricated. First of all, felony. All of those charges went away, but they now transferred it by information, was now in the circuit court. Case number C15CR230000731, 1 degree assault. On October 26, 2023, Judge Gokyan asked the assistant state attorney at the time, Thea Zumwalt, to provide a bill of particulars. Thea Zumwalt comes back on October 31, 2023, and files 6 more charges. All these charges are misdemeanors. 3 felony assault charges. Sorry, 3 second degree assault charges. 3 second degree assault. There's no felony. All misdemeanors. 3 second degree assault charges. Each one carries 10 years maximum penalty. 1 disorderly conduct, 60 days maximum penalty. 1 reckless endangerment, 5 years maximum penalty, and 1 intent to injure with a dangerous weapon, 3 years maximum. What's difficult to understand that? Those are the charges, right? Courtroom proceedings. Who's a judge? Who's a state attorney? The person who filed charges against me. Judge presides in the courtroom, right? Who's the public defender? Represents me in court, defends me in court, says I'm not guilty. What are the pleas I can take in court? I can say I'm guilty or not guilty. I've said I'm not guilty. What is a plea bargain? It's an offer by the state. They can try and reduce your sentence or whatever. If you take a guilty plea or whatever, or something called not criminally responsible, can lower your sentence or whatever. These are very easy things. What's a bailiff? The person responsible for safety or security in court. These are very, very easy things, right? What are the type of sentences, right? You could do community service. It could be jail, imprisonment, right? It could be PBG, probation before judgment. It is. These are very easy. Those are the things they're asking somebody who has a law degree, Juris Doctor degree, These are simple questions that a 9-year-old would pass. That's what they're saying. I don't know. It just shows the rank racism of Montgomery County's state attorney's office, and Judge James Bonifant. Rank racism. Judge Bonifant was now speculating yesterday that I'm very rigid. That was what he was saying yesterday, that I'm very rigid. And then he decides to read what the psychiatrist said. He said, but the psychiatrists say the rigidity is not a mental illness, that I don't have a mental illness. He was looking for a mental illness. That's what he's a racist. So an intelligent black man who doesn't kowtow to who asserts himself, right? Who's able to hold on to his own anchors, to his own beliefs, right? And his conscience. To him is too rigid. Because I refuse to be coerced by a crooked state attorney, a crooked prosecutor, or a crooked judge saying I'm rigid. Well, being rigid is not a mental illness. And he goes, oh, that, but two psychiatrists have already said, oh, it's not a mental illness. And he said, I'm rigid. That's his own belief. He doesn't know more beyond what he knows in the courtroom. I'm respectful to him. And then he starts to make specious statements. For instance, he gave me this case, like the case was saying, well, that if I'm not guaranteed, I have no right to counsel. If I refuse ineffective counsel, that I automatically waive my right. No, I don't waive my rights. I have a constitutional guarantee. It's a public, it's a criminal trial, right? There's a constitutional guarantee to effective counsel. And I haven't waived that right unless you waive it knowingly and voluntarily. He can't coerce me. He was trying to coerce me, use all these tricks to try and coerce me. I haven't waived it, It's so bizarre. The racism, oh my God. It's astonishing. Anyway, I'll keep you posted. Thank you.